Here's probably perhaps our hardest problem with implicit differentiation so far, certainly our most involved. It says find the slope of the tangent line to the graph 3 times the quantity x squared plus y squared all squared equals 100xy they give us a point x comma y. So our goal is to find the derivative and then put our xy point, substitute it in for x and y, and that will give us the slope of the tangent line. That's the overall concept. So if we have 3 times x squared plus y squared squared equals 100xy, and we're asked to find this derivative by implicit means. Well, let's look at the left-hand side. I'm going to multiply and subtract. So 6 times whatever's in parentheses, 2 minus 1 is 1. And our chain rule says we're going to take whatever's in parentheses and take the derivative of that. Well, so this is x squared plus y squared. Notice that stays the same. The derivative of x squared is 2x. The derivative of y squared is plus 2y. You guessed it, chain rule, dy dx, when we use that implicit differentiation, is equal to, well, I'm going to consider on the right-hand side that this is f and this is g. So product rule, derivative of the first, 100 times the second, plus the first, 100x, and the derivative of y we know as dy dx. All right, so now we've got this times this. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute this 6 just to the first term. I don't distribute it to all terms. So I have 6x squared plus 6y squared times 2x plus 2y dy dx is equal to 100y plus 100x dy dx. Now, look, I've got 2 terms. Terms are separated by pluses and minuses, and 2 terms. So I'm going to FOIL over here. First will give me 12x cubed. Outer will give me plus 12x squared y dy dx. Inner gives me plus 12x y squared. And last gives me plus 12y cubed dy dx. So we have to have very strong algebra skills in order to be able to go from there to there. Of course, this is still equal to 100y plus 100x dy dx. And now I can say, well, here I have a term with dy dx. Here I have a term with dy dx. Here I have a term with dy dx. So I'm going to get all of those terms with dy dx together. So I have 12x squared y dy dx, I took that from there, plus 12y cubed dy dx. I'll subtract 100x dy dx from both sides, minus 100x dy dx is equal to, well, I'm going to subtract 12x cubed from both sides. So I have negative 12x cubed. I've moved this over to here. I'm going to subtract 12xy squared from both sides, minus 12xy squared, and plus 100y stays where it is. I've got dx, dy dx, dy dx, dy dx. I'm going to factor that out, dy dx times 12x squared y plus 12y cubed minus 100x is equal to negative 12x cubed minus 12xy squared plus 100y. Now I'm going to divide by everything that's not dy dx to get dy dx is equal to negative 12x cubed minus 12xy squared plus 100y all over 12x squared y plus 12y cubed minus 100x. Wow, what work we did just to isolate dy dx. So I've just copied down my derivative dy dx from the previous board, and I want to know what is the slope of the tangent at this point 3, 1. Notice they better give us both x and y because our derivative is in terms of both x and y. And they've also given us a sketch of what this thing looks like. Notice at 3, 1, our tangent line looks to have a positive rise over a positive run. So if we don't get a positive answer for our slope, then we know we've done something wrong. At least we can check ourselves a little bit. So at 3, 1, our dy dx will be negative 12, 3 cubed minus 12, 3, 1 squared plus 100 times 1 all over 12, 3 squared times 1 plus 12 times 1 cubed minus 100 times 3. All I did was every time I saw an x, I substituted in 3. Every time I saw y, I substituted in 1. dy dx, when I crunch the numbers, I get simplified 100 minus 324 minus 36, all divided by 108 plus 12 minus 300. Now, I'm doing that by following parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. For example, 3 times 100, you can see clearly I get 300 there. When I add the numerator, I get negative 260, and I add the denominator, I get negative 180. Divide by 10, I get 26 over 18, because negative divided by negative is positive. Divide by 2, I get 13 over 9. And again, I look back here and I say, does that make sense? Would this possibly be up 13 for rise and over 9 for run? And I say, yeah, I'm happy with that. Seems reasonable.